Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of Civilization 6, coming at you with a recap of and a reaction to the Ethiopia Pack developer update video that has just been released by Firaxis. This pack will be available later this month as part of the New Frontier Pass DLC, and also a link to the Firaxis developer update video will be in the description below if you want to go check that out in its entirety. Now, before I get to the rundown on what you can expect with this Ethiopia pack, I just want to take a moment to let everyone who may be new here know that I upload new Civilization 6 content every single day, and I have hundreds of videos already available for your consumption if that sounds like something you may enjoy. So, if that's the case, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of the content. With that said, let us begin. It's the Ethiopia pack, which is being billed by Firaxis as the DLC of Faith, Diplomacy, and Intrigue. And what we knew coming into today for sure was that we were getting a new Civ, Ethiopia, as well as a new district and a new game mode called Secret Societies. But before we get to all that, I want to discuss what was a bit of a surprise to me, which was the announcement of a couple of new alternate leader personas, specifically Rough Rider Teddy and Magnificence Katherine. So let's take a quick look at each, starting with Teddy. In an absolutely fantastic outfit. I find the neck scarf really pulls the whole look together quite nicely. And in addition to the new ensemble, Rough Rider Teddy also comes with an interesting new mechanic. On top of the +5 strength of their strength on their home continent, which was already a part of their abilities, the Roosevelt Corollary includes the unique ability where any envoys sent to a city-state that you have a trade route with will count as 2 envoys. One final note is that the Rough Rider unit is now unique to this version of Teddy. But as for the addition of this new envoy mechanic, I have to say, while not earth-shattering by any means, this is actually quite a significant little bonus that will really give you an advantage in maintaining suzerain status and acquiring a lot of the city-state bonuses that you may not have otherwise been able to get. I talk a lot about how important it is to get every envoy that you possibly can when dealing with city-states. And Rough Rider Teddy now gives you a mechanic to help you gain some extra control in the city-state diplomacy world. Fantastic stuff. Really looking forward to trying that out. Next, we have the masquerading Catherine de' Medici in all her magnificence. And I have to say, my first impressions of Katherine the Magnificence is that they should offer some really interesting gameplay twists in comparison to regular Katherine. The first ability, improved luxury resources adjacent to theater squares or a chateau, receive +2 culture. While a little map dependent on just how helpful it will be, this is certainly going to give you some degree of culture boost to help you make sure that you are pushing your way through the civics tree as you begin to get your theater squares and chateaus built. So definitely a decent little upgrade for sure. Also, the second part of the unique ability, which is the initiation of court festival projects in cities with a theater square district. While the introduction of a unique project is very intriguing, exactly how powerful this will be remains to be seen. We do know that it gives both culture and tourism based on the number of excess copies of luxury resources that France possesses. So again, a little bit map dependent on how effective it will be, but I'm interested to try this out and see just how effective it will be in pushing this particular version of Katherine towards a culture victory. My overall impression of both of these unique personas is that the changes made are definitely significant enough to create distinction between the gameplay you'll experience when using the newer version compared to the original, and that's a good thing. Now, it's time to move on. Let's take a look at the meat of this DLC, and that begins with Faith, which comes from our latest Civ, Ethiopia. Now, unfortunately, the full reveal video for Ethiopia will not actually be available until later this month, so we're stuck breaking down the teaser clips and information they dropped today, which includes bonus faith from international trade routes. And as you can see here, there's plus 2.5 faith in all the international trade routes here. And I do believe that I can assess that that's probably 0.5 faith per specialty district in the origin city. As you can see here, there's actually an entertainment complex behind this window. There is also the Government Plaza, the Theater Square, the Industrial Zone, and the Holy Site. That's 5 districts, and multiplied by 0.5 would equal 2.5. And since most trade route bonuses are dependent on the number of districts either in the origin city or the destination city, it's probably fair to say that there's some sort of correlation here. And that math certainly checks out and makes a lot of sense. And is actually a pretty solid bonus, I have to say. Being able to generate extra faith bonuses throughout the game is really kind of a cool thing. There's lots of different ways you can spend faith in this game. And having that extra ability to create faith with trade routes is certainly no little thing. Speaking of interesting ways to spend your faith, another little tidbit that they dropped is that Ethiopia is going to have the special ability to purchase theater square buildings with faith. And in fact, the direct quote was, gives you new things to do with your faith to help you claim a culture victory. And so that's actually pretty fantastic. If you are generating a really nice faith income, which you would imagine you will be, particularly if you get your holy districts going, maybe you get a faith generating pantheon, but also all that faith you're going to be pulling in from those international trade routes. So lots of faith, being able to purchase your theater squares with faith, your theater square buildings with faith is going to actually be super fantastic. Because not having to wait to get them built means you're going to start earning those great people points immediately instead of having to wait for the production to finish. So I think that's going to actually be a really cool ability that's going to set these guys apart. And the thing is that they're going to be a faith-based civ, but knowing that they're going to have an advantage to push them towards a second kind of victory type is also quite intriguing, because sometimes you get civs that are so set on one track that they don't really have anything that can help them out in others. So I think it's kind of promising to see that Ethiopia is going to have a bit of a well-rounded overall skill set. So pretty cool stuff. And finally, one other thing that I was able to glean from the video that they showed is that up here in the right-hand corner, and again over here in the very top left-hand corner, you can see what appears to be a new unique tile improvement. And it does actually resemble quite a bit some religious sites that you can actually find in Ethiopia. So my guess is that this might be an indication of a tile improvement that Ethiopia will be capable of. There's no indication of what kind of yields it might gain or when it becomes available or anything like that. But just knowing that it's probably a tile improvement, that's pretty interesting. Hopefully it's something that actually works pretty well. And also, one would hope it synergizes well with their other abilities. So here's hoping, anyway. But that's unfortunately all we know about Ethiopia. We'll see lots more in the future when the full release of their capabilities is given to us, hopefully in a week. Fingers crossed. But for now, let's move on to the next proportion of the DLC, which is the diplomatic portion. And that means it's time to check out the Diplomatic Order, as you can see here. And as you can see as well, your civilizations receive +1 diplomatic favor for each delegation or embassy from a foreign civilization through diplomacy when you build the Diplomatic Order district. Now, in the video, the girl did mention that it was +1 culture per delegation and embassy, but I feel like that's probably a mistake in her script, and the overlay here probably makes a little bit more sense that it's +1 diplomatic favor and not culture. And not a bad little bonus ability for the district. In addition, if you build it next to your city center, you get an additional envoy. And enemy spies operate at 2 levels below normal, targeting this district and adjacent districts. And only one exists, of course. Just like the government plaza, you can only have one of these in your empire. So, possible envoy, reduction in the ability of spies, and the diplomatic favor. Not a bad bonuses for getting the district built itself. Next, we have the 2 buildings that go into it. First, we'll start with the consulate. And you can see here that there's +2 influence points per turn that are given for having the consulate built. And enemy spy level is reduced by 1 when targeting this city or cities with encampments. And that's actually going to synergize pretty well with the second building as well in order to help generate some science. In addition, this building also provides 4 gold, 4 science, and 2 faith. Now, while those yields are actually pretty good, This appears to be a building that's going to come fairly late in the game. So while you're never going to look that kind of yield in the face and say no thank you, it's certainly not going to be game changing. But 4 gold, 4 science, 2 faith, we'll take it. It's definitely better than nothing. And next we have the Chancery building. And this gives actually +3 influence points per turn. So that's a total of 5 if you get both buildings done. And when the civilization captures or kills an enemy spy, you receive 50 science for every level of that enemy spy. And as well, you get +3 faith. So the +3 faith, not bad. You'll take every little bit of generation of faith you can, but especially when you can buy theater square buildings with it. But 3 faith a turn isn't going to change your game all that much, but like I said, you'll take it. The 50 science per enemy level of the enemy spy that you kill or capture. This is kind of intriguing. I feel like it's certainly not going to be nothing. But I'm curious as to whether or not 50 science is going to be enough to have it be a real impact. Because we're talking about a whole other special district that you've got to build, plus 2 extra buildings, which is not going to be cheap. The cost of these is going to be similar to other tier 1 and tier 2 buildings, so it's not like it's going to be insignificant to get these done. And the actual payback, I'm just a little bit curious. Like 50 science isn't too bad, but even on deity, if you kill, let's say, I don't even know, I was trying to think about this earlier, maybe you get 5 or 10 kills per game of spies or captures or whatever, it might equal 500 science or so. For the most part, you're probably catching level 1 spies, because once they're level 2, level 3 and promoted in that, they've got abilities. They're much harder to capture, obviously. So unless you get lucky and capture a level 3, later in the game, it starts to cost 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 or more science for every technology. So only getting a small portion of one technology from this, it feels a little bit light. I don't know. It just feels just a touch light. But we'll see. It's going to synergize well with having your spies, the spies operate at lower levels with some of the other buildings and districts. And certainly counter spying will be much more encouraged in order to try and capture this extra science, particularly if you're going for a science victory. But I'm just wondering if 50 is enough. I'm just a little bit curious about that. But anyway, that's our new district. I hope you guys like that. I actually think overall it's kind of interesting. I had no idea what they were going to choose to make this new district. A second government district is actually kind of intriguing. And we'll have to see how this plays into play styles based on the different victory types you could be going for. And finally, we have the intrigue portion of the DLC, which comes in the form of a new game mode called Secret Societies. And my first impressions of this game mode is that some people are going to really enjoy it and want to play it all the time, and others, more traditional Civ players like myself, maybe find it a little bit gimmicky and perhaps not be interested at all. As for me, I'm pretty traditional and have to say I'm not all that intrigued myself. I will say this, though. I'm definitely going to try it out. There's definitely enough depth of mechanics in this game mode, thought out processes, changes to buildings, and all kinds of new stuff that we'll get to here in a second, that I definitely feel like it's something worth trying out, and maybe it'll surprise me and I'll enjoy it more than I thought. But it's not something I anticipate being into and playing all that regularly. But with that said, let's jump in and take a look at what we see. So if playing in this game mode, it does appear this is actually on turn 1 of this game that you've been given this notification. So at some point, there's 4 different secret societies, and I'm guessing you're going to have to choose which one you want to play as. I'm not 100% sure if you're choosing that in the game menu, or maybe when you settle your first city, it pops up and says select which society you want to join, and then this screen pops up. And as you can see in this particular one, you're being called to the Hermetic Order, and you will gain one governor title, and you will be brought to this screen here, where you can see you actually get, very interestingly, a brand new governor, which, by the way, does not have to be put into any particular city. It actually just works in a worldwide network. It just exists and operates as if it's always active. So this one here, as you can see, is the Hermetic Order. And it's added into the whole promotional tree and things like that. Now, as we move on, I'll just show you here. This is actually some of the promotions that we were able to see. The first one, which unlocks with initiation, which I do believe is unlocked by the discovery of a natural wonder. And it also reveals the ley line resource on the map. Ley lines give a standard adjacency bonus to all specialty districts. And it's actually kind of interesting when you see it in the video. There's a little kind of bright line that appears on the ground, and this is of course would be, I guess, on turn 1 or as soon as you discover a natural wonder, I guess. So you'll know this information from the beginning and be able to plan your districts around it to get additional adjacencies. So kind of an interesting new mechanic that will help or not necessarily help, but change the way you plan your districts in your map management when it comes to your civilization. In addition, in the medieval era, you're going to unlock the Alchemical Society building, which we'll take a look at in a second, which is a powerful replacement to the university. And as well, you can see here, unlocked in the industrial era, for every great person earned, ley lines receive +1 yield equal to that great person's district type. So just some extra bonuses to great people. Like I said, it's intriguing. There's a lot of thought process that's gone into this and a lot of development. So it's not just a simple, tiny little change. There's definitely a lot of thought that's gone into it, and it's going to be a big game changer to the overall way in which you look at the game and the way you play the game. Certainly different than a typical traditional game you're going to play. So let's take a quick look at the Alchemical Society, which is a replacement for the university. Like I said, it gives the same normal bonuses as a university, but also it provides a little bonus production as well. And in addition to great scientist points, it also adds great merchant points and great engineer points. So kind of an interesting little change that it just makes that university actually quite powerful in the fact that you get all kinds of great people points, merchants and engineers in addition to scientists, which would make it a big change to want to rush to this special university. And you also get gold equal to a science adjacency. So a little bit of extra gold as well that'll come with that. So super, super powerful. Moving on real quickly here. The second one is called Owls of Minerva. Some of the abilities here are listed along here. Unlocking the ability to send envoys to a city-state, +1 economic policy slot, not too shabby. And each trade route sent to a city-state awards an envoy there. So really, really helps with city-state interaction and envoys and stuff by going in this route and choosing this particular secret society. Also, ritual unlocked in the medieval era allows you to construct the Gilded Vault, which we'll take a look at in a moment as well. Another really powerful building that's replaces the bank. And finally, indoctrination is the other one that we got information on. Unlocked in the industrial era, gives you another policy card slot, +2 spy capacity, and your cities gain +4 loyalty per turn and +1 amenity when your spy is in their territory. So again, a lot of abilities around envoys and diplomacy and even your government and getting extra policy slots and stuff like that. So pretty interesting as far as overall background ability. The first society was focused heavily on science. This one, a little bit towards envoys, governments, and a little bit of culture, as you can see here, which is that the commercial hub will now get a culture equal to the adjacency of that commercial hub once you build this Gilded Vault. The Gilded Vault basically gives you the same yield as a bank does, but it turns the commercial hub adjacency into culture as well. So not a bad little thing at all. It gives you incentive to build those banks, because I often don't even build the banks. The production doesn't really get fed back in gold oftentimes if you're playing in a relatively quick pace. It's not to say banks are terrible, but it's kind of a maybe I'll get it built, maybe I won't kind of thing. Often I'm just running campus projects by that point instead of worrying about my gold income. So this will certainly give you an incentive to build those banks. I do believe this is actually going to come earlier than the banks in the technology tree and allow you to get those Gilded Vaults built earlier, get that bonus gold earlier, and of course really ramp up your culture in that mid game. Moving on. The next one is called Void Singers. Void Singers, unlocked by discovering a tribal village, allows you to construct the old God Obelisk building, a powerful replacement to the monument. We'll take a look at that in a moment. Excuse me. Ritual, unlocked in the medieval era. Cities earn gold, science, and culture per turn equal to 20% of their faith per turn rate. That is some serious incentive to get your faith rate up. because that can be a really big bonus to your gold, science, and culture. I'm really curious to see how this balances out compared to some of the other abilities of the other secret societies, because this feels like it could be super powerful if you push that faith really hard. And also, unlocking in the Industrial Era unlocks the Cultist unit, which is a unique unit that you can purchase with faith and it uses charges to reduce loyalty in foreign cities and generate relics of the void. So you can generate relics, which I guess you could even switch and turn the relics into culture, which are into into tourism. There's all kinds of implications there. But yeah, basically you're sending cultists off to other people's lands to recruit people from their lands into your cult and generate faith and relics and all kinds of crazy stuff, and also reduce your loyalty. So if you happen to be in a situation where you're fighting with loyalty with another adjacent civ, this could be an interesting way to maybe make a couple of cities flip as well. So an interesting mechanic there. So let's take a quick look at the old God Obelisk, which you can see here is a unique building to the Void Singers and replaces the monument. It contains one Great Work slot, which is very interesting, and it can hold any type of Great Work as well, and then provides +1 loyalty as usual, and the normal culture stuff. But in addition, you get +4 faith, which is a lot of faith generation when you consider it. Building the monument, I always say it's the first thing you build in all your new cities. 2 culture, right out of the gate, boom, every time you build one, it's fantastic. Be able to get that 2 culture and 4 faith, not to mention the Great Work slot, seems like a pretty powerful little building you can get super early. Right away you can build this thing and generate a ton of faith. You're going to be able to generate your cultists at some point soon. Like, faith generation is really getting a big game change in this game lately, and that's a really interesting new building that you can build there. And finally, I'll show you what very little we know about the final secret society, and it's the Sanguine Pack. They actually didn't give us any information about abilities and stuff like that. They talked about a couple things. They talked about, first of all, the name of the vampires. They're vampires. The name of them escaped me. There's vampires, and they build these vampire castles. And essentially, they're military units. These are a military-based society. They did mention that. So I'm guessing if you're going to go for a military domination type victory, these would be guys you wanted to focus on. And they have some different unique abilities. They gain power based on deaths occurring around them. They cannot die. They actually just drop to 1 health, and then they can actually move away and heal up by pillaging and stuff. And when they build these vampire castles, you can actually see there's actually bonus yields that they provide as well. So building some of these unique tile improvements on your lands could actually give you a ton of bonuses as well. Looks like a fair amount of bonus, like an extra production, maybe a bunch of gold, I guess, as well, and then some food bonus. So pretty fantastic tile improvement, it looks like. And also these castles, later on in the much later eras, you can actually teleport units from one castle to another inside your lands, apparently. So that sounds like a pretty cool mechanic as well. So certainly these societies are way outside of the normal traditional civilization gameplay, but seem pretty interesting. There's, even as I've gone through and described it to you guys for a second time in my head, I'm thinking, this actually could be a fair amount of fun. Certainly, like I said, way different, but I think there's going to be a lot of people out there who are going to find this extremely intriguing to play. They're going to have a lot of fun with the mechanics and working with new governors. I think this is going to get a lot of people playing a lot more Civ because there's so many different personalities obviously playing this game, and I think there's going to be a lot of people who enjoy this. And again, that's a really good thing. More people playing more Civ 6 is a fantastic thing in my eyes. Anyway, so there you go. Secret societies. How intriguing. That, ladies and gentlemen, is it. That's it. That's all I've got. That's your Ethiopian update, review, and reaction. Overall, like I said, I'm definitely excited to jump in and try the new content. Can't wait to get my hands on it. Also excited to get my hands on that full Ethiopia Civ details, which I'm hoping will come out next week. And at that point, you can count on a full recap video of that as well, getting my first impressions of then. and just how strong I think they'll be. For now, I will bid you adieu by asking you to please take a moment to click that like button if you've enjoyed this. It really helps me out. And please have yourself a wonderful day. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.